Yes, madam.
And how are the children coming along in their French lessons?
They're very bright children, madam.
Great, you say? Well, why not? And mathematics? You're doing well in mathematics, I assume.
Yes, madam, especially Vanya.
Certainly, I knew it. I excelled in mathematics. He gets that from his mother, wouldn't you say?
Yes, madam.
Now then, let's settle our accounts. I imagine you must need money, although you never asked me for it yourself. Let's see, we agreed to 30 rubles a month, did we not?
40, ma'am.
No, 30, I made a note of it. Who told you 40?
You did, ma'am. I only spoke to you concerning money.
Impossible. Maybe you thought you heard 40 when I really said 30. If you kept your head up, this wouldn't be an issue. Look at me and I'll say it again. 30 rubles a month.
Yes, ma'am.
Now then, you've been here 2 months exactly.
2 months and 5 days.
No, exactly 2 months. I made a note of it. You should keep books the way I do. That way we wouldn't have these little discrepancies. Now then, 2 months of 30 rubles a month comes to 60 rubles, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And subtract 9 Sundays. We did agree to subtract Sundays, did we not?
No, ma'am, we didn't.
Well, certainly we did. I always subtract Sundays. I didn't bother making note of it because I always do it. Surely you recall when I said we would subtract Sundays.
No, ma'am.
Think?
No, ma'am.
You weren't thinking, your eyes were wandering. Look at me and think hard. Do you remember now?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't hear you, Julia.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. I knew you'd remember. And subtract 3 holidays, correct?
2 holidays, ma'am. Christmas and New Year's.
And your birthday. That's 3.
I worked on my birthday, ma'am.
You did? Well, there was no need to. My governesses never worked on their birthdays.
But I worked, ma'am.
Well, that's not the question. We're discussing financial matters now, Julia. I will, however, only count 2 holidays if you insist. Do you insist?
I did work, ma'am.
So you do insist.
No, ma'am.
3 holidays. So therefore we take off 12 rubles. And now then, 4 days, little Kolya was sick and there were no lessons.
But I taught lessons to Vanya, ma'am.
True, but I engaged you to give lessons to 2 children, not 1. Should I pay you in full for doing only half the work?
No, ma'am.
So we'll deduct it. 3 days you had a toothache, and my husband gave you permission not to work after lunch.
Until 4. I worked until 4.
I have here did not work after lunch. We have lunch at 1 and are finished at 2, not at 4. Correct?
Yes, ma'am, but
That's another 7 rubles. Now then, 7 and 12 is 19, subtract, that leaves 41 rubles, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And now then, the 4th of January, you broke a teacup and saucer, is that true?
Just a saucer, ma'am.
What good is a teacup without a saucer? 2 rubles. The saucer was an heirloom. It cost much more, but I'll let it go. I'm used to taking losses.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
And now then, the 9th of January, Kolya climbed a tree and tore his jacket.
But I forbade him to do so, ma'am.
Didn't listen, did he? 10 rubles. The 14th of January, Vanya's shoes were stolen.
By the maid, ma'am. You dismissed her yourself.
True, but you get paid good money to watch everything. I explained that in our first meeting. Perhaps you weren't listening. Were you listening that day, Julia, or was your head in the clouds?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, your head was in the clouds?
No, ma'am. I was listening.
Good girl. And now the 16th of January, I gave you 10 rubles.
No, you didn't, ma'am.
But I made a note of it. Why would I make a note of it if I didn't give it to you? It is not a satisfactory answer, Julia. Why would I make a note of giving you 10 rubles if I did not, in fact, give it to you? No answer? Then I must have given it to you, mustn't I?
Yes, ma'am, if you say so, ma'am.
Well, certainly I say so. That's the point of this talk, to clear up these little matters. Now then, 27 from 41 leaves 14, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What's this? Tears? Are you crying, Julia? Something made you unhappy? Please tell me. It pains me to see you like this. I'm so sensitive to tears. What is it?
Only once since I've been here has anyone ever given me any money, and that was by your husband. On my birthday, he gave me 3 rubles.
Really? Well, there's no note of that in my book. Thank you for telling me. I'll put it down now. Sometimes I'm a little lax with my accounts, always shortchanging myself. Let's see, take 3 from 14 leaves 11. Do you wish to check my figures?
No, ma'am.
Very well. Here's your salary for 2 months. 11 rubles. Count it.
No, ma'am. It's not necessary.
Come, let's keep the record straight. Count it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's only 10 rubles now.
Are you sure? Look on the floor. Perhaps you dropped one. See if there's a coin there.
I'm sure I didn't drop any, ma'am.
Well, I know I gave you 11 rubles and it isn't here on the desk. Look on the floor.
10 rubles will be fine.
Very well. Keep the 10 for now, and if you don't find it on the floor later, we can discuss it again next month.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. You're very kind, ma'am.
Julia, come back here. Why did you thank me?
For the money, ma'am.
For the money? But don't you realize what I've done? I cheated you, robbed you. I have no such notes in my book. I just made up whatever came into my mind. Instead of paying you the 80 rubles I owe you, I gave you only 10. I've actually stolen from you, and still you thank me. Why?
Because in all the other places I've worked, they haven't given me any money at all.
Then they treated you even worse than I have, and I was playing a little joke, a cruel lesson just to teach you. You're much too trusting, and in this world that's very dangerous. I'm going to give you the entire 80 rubles. It's already for you in this envelope. Take it.
As you wish.
Julia, is it possible to be so spineless? Why don't you speak up? Why don't you protest? Why don't you cry out against this cruel and unjust treatment? Is it possible to be so innocent, so guileless, pardon me for being so blunt, such a simpleton?
Yes, ma'am, it's possible.
Wait! For those of you who are again offended by life's cruelties, there's an alternate ending. Julia was so enraged by such cruel and unjust treatment that she quit her job on the spot and went back to her poor parents, where she inherited 5 million rubles. It was my